Hello everyone, Nicholson here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. I'm your host, and on this show we're going to be breaking down all of the day's movie news and kind of giving a little bit of background into what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get into today's main topics. And the first topic I want to talk about is the upcoming sequel Jurassic World has actually begun production. They announced, I believe it was earlier today, that the film has begun production. They actually released a couple of photos from the movie. Now, these are kind of more behind-the-scenes shots. You get to see Bryce Dallas Howard, who's one of the main actresses in the film. Some people might remember her from movies, well, wouldn't remember her from Lady in the Water, but she played Gwen Stacy in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. She's had a couple other films. She was in Terminator Salvation. She played Christian Bale's wife in that movie. So she's been around a fair amount. She's actually the daughter of director Ron Howard, so she's broken out its big acting career. I think, actually, a lot of people would remember her from The Help. She was very good in that movie. But the photo showed her, and her character's more of they quoted her as being more of a corporate character, like very business type, very corporate structure. And the picture really does give that away. She's kind of in a business, so she's holding a binder. So she's obviously, you know, more of a corporate. I would say I can't remember the term, but the person that accompanied a correspondent or representative of the company that would go to the park or whatever it's going to be in this movie. Now, again, the title is called Jurassic World. So we still don't know the actual core aspect of the film. We don't know exactly what the main storyline is going to be. The director actually was interviewed and gave a few tidbits of information about the film. One of the things that he said is that, you know, this is a direct quote from him via Deadline, it's about alpha dominance and the fact that humans have been the alpha species for a very long time. And so now we've brought back another that happened to be the alpha species during its time. And we have to coexist. So what is that relationship? And that's, to me, that says the movie's going more global. It may not necessarily be isolated to the island, although very well it might be. Perhaps they could do something like what they did in The Lost World, where the majority of the movie is set on the island, and then the third act, or the major end sequence, is going to be set somewhere else. Maybe the dinosaurs escape or something like that. But Colin Trevorrow, who is the director of this, he also directed a movie a couple of years ago called Safety Not Guaranteed, which it's an independent film, but if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's a very good film. But he also stated that they've already had discussions about doing sequels, about continuing on the story, not making it feel episodic, but more so a narrative that would actually arc over several films. So what I hope they do, and I've actually even seen this written on a couple of other news sites, is have that intention of making it a broad-scale story arc, but have this be a self-contained movie. Don't set it up where it's just going to end on a cliffhanger and then come out with another one, because what happens if this movie's not very good? The studio, I mean, it's such a powerful name and franchise that the studio wouldn't just kill the franchise at that point. They may sit on the property for a while and then decide to reboot it later on. But if this movie doesn't do very well, that could hinder all of those other projects in Nerd, because the studio's not going to want to move forward on something they know already is not going to make money. But if, like, the correct thing to do is, if they have an idea for a trilogy, they should do them all relatively close together. Like, they should have already come out and said that, you know, we got Jurassic World coming out in 2015. We got Jurassic World 2, or whatever they're going to call it, Jurassic Planet, or Jurassic Solar System, or whatever name they're going to come up with that's going to be bigger or different or anything like that. Have that come out in 2017, maybe 2018, and then have the final, because they want to set this up as a trilogy, have the final movie come out, you know, in 2019 or 2020. Preferably like every 2 to 3 years, have the movie come out. That gives them enough time to develop the film. If they have an idea of what they want to do and they have everybody under contract, you could do it in 2 years. Especially considering the fact that they wouldn't have to tear down the sets per se, or at least if they did, they would have all the sets there. They could still get the main crew back. So it means that they would be able to continue on a storyline, at least a cohesive storyline, without sacrificing the quality of the film, but still maintaining the fact that each movie is on its own. Like, even take into consideration, with the exception of Empire Strikes Back, at least the way that that movie ends, the core essential factors in each movie is a standalone film. Like Star Wars, they could have ended it there. Obviously, the story lent itself to be continued, but they didn't necessarily need to continue on past that point. You know, essentially Darth Vader went off into space, he had been defeated, they blew up the Death Star. Obviously there were nuggets that were there to be continued on, but they didn't need to. Empire Strikes Back, the storyline itself was very self-contained. The overall story of the film was very self-contained. There were a few aspects of it that lent itself again to leading into a third film, which, I mean, you couldn't necessarily have only done The Empire Strikes Back. That's like, I mean, Han getting frozen in kryptonite and going and be taken by Jabba the Hutt. You have Luke losing his hand, finding out that Darth Vader was his father. You know, like all of these aspects, they were saying, okay, here you go. Now, those things could have easily been removed if they knew that this was going to be an individual film, or maybe not one that necessarily had a grander story to tell. So they can always do stuff like that. But the one comment that really had me going with this project was they're still using animatronics for the dinosaurs. I mean, obviously they're going to be using CG, and CG's come a long way, so they can do a lot more with it. But I mean, watching the original Jurassic Park, with the exception of maybe a portion of well, obviously the Brontosaurus at the beginning, or Brachiosaurus, I believe, the Velociraptor sequence near the end. There were only a few shots in there that looked a little iffy. Maybe they just weren't finished yet. But I mean, at the end, this was one of the first films out there to actually use full-blown CGI. So obviously they're going to go back to animatronics because they work so well. And if you rewatch that first sequence with the T-Rex, where the T-Rex breaks through the fence, those computer graphics are incredible. They're now 21 years old. They were one of the first, and they look incredible. So much better than a lot of the movies that come out nowadays. Like the texture, the lighting, the reflection because of the rain. Everything about it was just phenomenal. And I mean, there are movies nowadays that can't even match that. So, of course, they're going to go back to not only animatronics but using CGI. It just makes total sense. But the fact that they're actually doing it and not going full CGI is what really has me happy about this project. I'm excited about it. This movie was originally supposed to come out this year, but they ended up delaying it a little bit to get the story right and get the script right. But now they have a 2015 release date. So the movie stars Chris Pratt, who's also, people might know him from Parks and Recreation, but he's also the star of the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's headlining this film as well. So the guy's career is really, really growing, and I'm very happy for it because I like him as an actor. You know, he's somebody who you enjoy watching. He can play a couple of different roles. Like he was in Wanted. He played James McAvoy's best friend, who his girlfriend was cheating on him with. You know, he was in Zero Dark 30. A lot of people don't even recognize him in that movie because he was still kind of the more sarcastic one. He had more of the comedy aspect. He was still more of a serious role, but he had more of the comedy aspect in that film. But I mean, he's very diverse. He can do a lot, and he's also a chameleon. He changes his look every time he does a film. Like he did Zero Dark 30, and he gained like 30 or 35 pounds of muscle, and he looked ripped. Like he had the quote-unquote Olympian body. You know, like the Mount Olympus, the gods. You know, like the 8 abs, not just 6, the 8. Like he had everything. And then he went and did Delivery Man, I believe, the one with Vince Vaughn that came out back in November. I think it was Delivery Man. I may be mistaken on that. The one where he has like over 500 kids because he donated sperm at some bank and they got a paperwork mix up. He gained like 50 pounds to be a sluggish, overweight lawyer. You know, and a family man of 3 or 4 or 5 or something. I can't exactly remember, but and now he went and got back in shape to do Guardians of the Galaxy. And he got back into the same shape that he was in. Like the guy's a chameleon. He enjoys doing that because it's part of his job. You know, he understands that. So every time you see him, you know he's committed to the role because of what he's putting his body through. And you can really tell as well because the guy's talented. Like he's got a lot of talent behind him. So really looking forward to that film. I hope it's as good as we've been waiting. Like Jurassic Park 3 came out in 2001. And now we're into 2014. It's going to be coming out in 2015. We're now 14 years from the last installment. It'll have been 23 years since the original, or 22 years since the original film had come out. So they got a lot to live up to, but I have a lot of hope for this film. And our next topic is the partnership of Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, who a lot of people might not recognize their name, but they definitely know their projects that they've worked on. They were the screenwriters of the original Transformers, and they co-wrote the sequel as well. You know, they worked on Mission Impossible 3 and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. They worked on such shows. I believe they worked on Fringe, but I may be mistaken. That may have just been Damon Lindelof as part of that crew. But they also worked on the rebooted Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness. Currently working on co-writing Star Trek 3, and also Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is coming out next Friday, I believe, and then also the Amazing Spider-Man 3, where I already know that they're on board to do that. They've decided to amicably end their longtime writing partnership in order to pursue individual directing careers. Now, Alex Kurtzman has already got a directorial debut under his belt with the movie called People Like Us. It starred Chris Pine and oh, I'm drawing a blank on her. She was in Zack and Miri Make a Porno. She was in Role Models. Oh, I cannot believe I'm forgetting her. Elizabeth Banks. And it was just a really touching kind of more family-oriented film. It was more of a drama, or dramedy, I should say. A little bit more on the drama side, but very nice film, very good directorial debut. I mean, again, it sounds like I do something better, and I don't know if I could have, especially as my first feature-length film. I just don't know that. I don't have that experience, so I just don't know. And I don't think so. I mean, the guy's been involved in the industry for a long time, so he's been around these people to work. So it really gets to me when people say, well, you couldn't have done better. It's like, well, no, but I'm not a professional in that industry. So, but I'm getting off topic. The main news with this, outside of them splitting up to become independent directors, Roberto Orci is actually lobbying hard to become the director of Star Trek 3. Obviously, J.J. Abrams cannot return because he's currently doing Star Wars Episode 7, and they want to get Star Trek 3. Their intention, as far as I'm aware, is to get the movie out by 2016, because that'll coincide with the 50-year anniversary of the original Star Trek series. So obviously J.J. Abrams cannot be involved, at least outside of a producing aspect, with the film. So he's lobbying pretty hard. He actually has the support, from what I read, he has the support of J.J. Abrams as well as the cast, and I believe who else is behind? There's a couple of other people who are behind him. The only thing is that the studio is a little hesitant to give him this film as his directorial debut, because this would be Roberto Orci's first film. Alex Kurtzman's already directed a film, and now he's been handed Venom. So he's writing Venom, and I believe he is confirmed now to direct Venom, which will be, I'm going to assume, the first film after Amazing Spider-Man 3, just because Drew Goddard, who is lined up to direct the Sinister Six movie, is currently working on the Daredevil television series, which will debut on Netflix. So he's going to be busy with that for a while. That'll allow Kurtzman to develop Venom and continue on with that and really expand upon that film. But Orci is really really lobbying hard. But again, the studio is just a little bit hesitant about giving this guy $150 to $200 million budgeted film as his directorial debut. We have the director of Tron Legacy, and I am drawing a blank on his name again. I'm so sorry, guys. But that was his directorial debut. I believe he'd only done commercials before that. He might not have even done that many, but his directorial debut was Tron Legacy, and it was like a $200 and some million film. And I think it might have made a little bit of money, but it just about broke even. The studio wasn't very happy with it. Then he did Oblivion. Joseph Kosinski. Joseph Kosinski was the director. And then he did Oblivion with Tom Cruise. And again, I believe that movie might have just made money, if not broke even. I don't even know if it made money or broke even. I'd have to look that up. But the studios take this into consideration. You know, give a director, even one who's been working in the industry this long, give him like a $50 to $70 million budgeted film. Get him to you know, get his ears wet. You know, get him involved in a larger scale film, but not one where the studio's gonna, you know, if that movie tanks, it's not gonna almost bankrupt them. Because the marketing campaign as well, you're looking at $250+ million budget in total for this film, if not more. Whereas a $50 to $70 million movie with a $20 million ad budget, you know, you're looking maximum $90 million. It's still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but the studio might be more willing to do that. They just did that with Wally Pfister and Transcendence, and unfortunately, I was so looking forward to that film. It had such high hopes for it. But it fell flat. I don't know if that's, like, I mean, obviously the director is the shepherd of the film. He is the one who is wholly responsible for the finished product. But I'm not entirely sure that it was 100% Wally Pfister's fault. part of me wants to think that it was due to the editing of the film because the film just felt too slow. The pacing was off. It felt like it should have been a little bit more tightly knit, maybe an hour and 40-minute film instead of a 2-hour film. Just really trim it up, make it a little bit more condensed. And I think that if they were to do that, then that may be a much more well-rounded film. You get a better sense of what's going on instead of falling asleep every half hour just because nothing's happening. Um, so I mean, it's we don't know exactly if he's going to get it. He is lobbying very hard for this. I'd be intrigued by it. Again, I don't know what his visualization would be. He would obviously have to keep it somewhat in line with what J.J. Abrams has already done with the original, but putting his own spin on it, because otherwise they just do an entire reboot, and they're not going to do that. So I mean, this is really intriguing, and it kind of sucks that Joe Cornish, who directed a movie called Attack the Block, which was a phenomenal film, it was his directorial debut, he was for a long time rumored to be directing the movie. He announced a couple of months ago that he wasn't going to be doing it. But he co-wrote Ant-Man with Edgar Wright, which Edgar Wright's, I believe they're filming now, and it's going to come out next July. So, I mean, these guys are definitely growing in this industry. They're getting more recognition for their work, which is definitely a good thing. I hope that they don't come out and say that, I think a name that would be intriguing but wouldn't do a good job would be someone like Quentin Tarantino. I don't think he would do a very good job at all with a Star Trek movie just because he would make it too weird. He would make it not sci-fi-y, but he would make it too weird and too dialogue heavy and not a lot of action. Even though I think it would be a really cool twist, I figure that should be more of a direct-to-TV type thing where they're not really dealing with the overall canon of the film. Or of the film series, I should say. So if Orsi gets it, I mean, I'll be intrigued, obviously. Abrams is returning as a producer on the film. So he is going to be involved with it, but not directly involved in overseeing every aspect, because obviously he's not going to be the director. So when we get more information about this, I'll definitely update you guys. And the last main topic that we have today is the studio's actually come out and given a release date for Johnny Depp's upcoming film Mordecai. Now, up until now, like again, this could fall into the Transcendence area where it's a really cool premise starring Johnny Depp that could fall flat. But there's a lot of talent behind it. Again, could fall flat. But David Koepp, who directed Premium Rush last year and has written a lot of films. I believe he wrote the original Spider-Man films, or at least co-wrote the original Spider-Man film. He's been involved in a lot of other projects. Works with Steven Spielberg a lot, and he's directing the film. It's going to become debuting February 6, 2015. Now, January, February is generally dump months for the studios where they will have a project that they maybe just don't have a lot of faith in. They've started seeing it come together and it's not working out the way that they wanted to. And so they put it in this month where they're not going to have to advertise it too much. It's right after the big award season, right after Christmas for majority of people out there. So not a lot of people are going to be as willing to go to a film in those months. So the studios they put a lot of the movies they consider to be not their best quality in those months. So I don't know about that, but I mean, having Johnny Depp, Paul Bettany, Ewan McGregor, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Goldblum, and a slew of other actors involved in this film, and the premise even sounds kind of cool too. This is taken from Deadline again. It's described as an art dealer and part-time rogue, Charlie Mordecai, who has to deal with angry Russians, British MI5, his wife, and an international terrorist as he travels the globe in a race to recover a stolen painting rumored to contain the code to a lost bank account filled with Nazi gold. To me, this sounds like a cross between Uncharted and National Treasure. It kind of sounds like it's got a little bit of goofy fun in there, maybe a little bit more kid-friendly. But it's described as an action comedy, which gives me that kind of feeling. But it's got that National Treasure aspect, and I mean, they're working on National Treasure 3, so if this movie comes out and then this does well, it could spew interest in National Treasure 3, because I've really enjoyed that franchise. I love movies that deal with history and clues and searches and quests and all that stuff. Like the movies kind of bring you along as a traveler with them, and it really just you envelop the film a little bit more. So I'm intrigued by this film, but again, I was really intrigued by Transcendence, and I was kind of let down by that, and I use kind of mildly. But I mean, again, you got a supporting cast of Paul Bettany, who just worked with Johnny Depp, that didn't work out very well. But Ewan McGregor, who rarely disappoints, Gwyneth Paltrow, who rarely disappoints, Jeff Goldblum, who I have never seen disappoint. The guy is unbelievable. I cannot wait to see this movie, at least just for his sequences. I can't wait to see it because he's awesome. You know, I will rewatch Independence Day just to watch his sequences, especially the original Jurassic Park. You know, every role that he has done has always been just cool. Like, you just want to watch him just because he might not even be acting. He's just Jeff Goldblum, you know? So I'm ecstatic about this film. But, I mean, my opinion could change when I see the first trailer, and the first trailer may be kind of boring. But I enjoyed Premium Rush. This movie might be kind of that really fun, don't take it too seriously type of film, which I have a feeling it might be. And if that's the case, it's just go into it with that mindset, and I think you'll enjoy it. But we got a long time to wait. We got, like, 9-10 months to wait before this movie comes out. So when we get more information about it, I'll definitely update you guys. All right, now it's time for rapid fire. In this sequence, or in this segment, essentially what we're going to do is talk about some new topics that have come out that are maybe just little updates about a film which we've already covered on the show, or one that's just not a lot of information about. So the first topic in rapid fire is Alan Horn, the president and CEO of Disney. I believe he's president and CEO. He's the head honcho of Disney. Has come out and talked about Star Wars, and everyone's eating up anything they can get about Star Wars. A lot of people are assuming that May 4th, which is Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you, is going to be the day when they fully announce at least the full cast, maybe give a little teeny tiny bit of a plot synopsis. But I mean, he's come out and said that, yeah, Star Wars Episode 7 is going to have a reported budget somewhere in the range of $175 to $200 million. Which is, you come to expect that, especially considering the fact that the movie is using a lot of practical sets. So they're going to have to build these actual sets. They're not just relying on computer graphics, which on their own would be very expensive. So, I mean, it's nice to hear that they are going to give the movie the funding that it needs, but obviously it's Star Wars. It's the biggest property in history. They're going to throw whatever they can at it to make sure that it's successful. They got the right talent behind it. They got Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back. I believe he may have even directed Empire Strikes Back. And then he co-wrote the third film, The Return of the Jedi. They brought him back to co-write the script with J.J. Abrams after an initial draft by Michael Arndt, who is the Academy Award-winning writer of Toy Story 3. I mean, they've got the talent there. So they know that whatever they need, here's your cash. Here you go. Take whatever you need to make sure that it's a quality film. And with someone like J.J. Abrams at the helm, I know we're going to get something quality. It's just, I have a feeling we're not going to know anything about the film, even from the trailers, until December 18th, 2015. Because he's notoriously super secretive about his projects. I do hope, though, that next Sunday, May the 4th, will be the date when they announce a lot of that stuff. So if that happens, I will definitely update you guys on the following day's show. And the last bit of rapid fire we have is one, it's a little bit unfortunate because I used to love these books when I was a kid, and this just has stinker written all over it. Goosebumps is coming to theaters. They've announced the release date of March 23rd, 2016. Jack Black is starring in it, and they've actually come out with a pretty good synopsis for the film. And this just, I mean, it's not based off of any one of the books. This, to me, reminds me of The Cat in the Hat. And I have a feeling this is going to be just like that film, and it's just going to just be terrible. And I hope that's not the case because I love these books. I loved them when I was a kid. Obviously, they are geared more towards kids, but they're horror books for kids. I mean, they still have really cool stories, and they could be adapted very well to the screen. But essentially, Jack Black plays R.L. Stine. So he plays the author of the Goosebumps books in real life. And his son starts to get a little, not friendly, but becomes friends with the new neighbor girl who moves in next door. And through one thing or another, R.L. Stine's creations from his book actually come to life and begin terrorizing the local town. And it's up to Stine, his son, and the neighbor to get them back in the books where they belong. Yeah, this movie sounds awful. I mean, right now, Jack Black's name is synonymous with uh-oh. Yeah, every time I see Jack Black's name associated with a movie, even Bernie, I've heard that Bernie's a pretty good movie, but I have not seen it only because it stars Jack Black. And his name to me is stay away. It's not going to be good. He is not the same type of actor that he was. It's like with Adam Sandler. If Adam Sandler's coming out with a new movie, I'm very hesitant to even want to watch the trailer because I know that it's just going to be a lot of, toilet humor. It's not going to be smart. It's just going to be the same old shtick that he does every single time. So this to me does not instill a lot of hope. I mean, I could be changed when the movie actually comes out. It may be good. We don't know until the film actually comes out. It might be good, but I'm not excited about this movie at all. Until I see a trailer, that may change my opinion, but even then, I don't think it will. Gulliver's Travels ruined Jack Black for me. He was awful in that film. It was just terrible. So this film right now, I can't get behind it yet. That may change when I start hearing more information about it, see a trailer, all that stuff. But as it stands right now, not that excited for it. But what can you do? Well, that'll about do it here on Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. You've been a great audience. Now go ahead and click the subscribe button, just right here, down here at the bottom of the screen. You get updates on every time that we post a video, things like that. You can keep up to date with all of your movie-related information. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun, and get all your updates on any time that anything is posted. I will be updating on Twitter, and then I will try to cover as many of those topics on the next day's show. And you can also, if you guys have a topic or question that you would like to discuss on the show, go ahead and either leave a comment in the comment section. You can message me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun, or you can email me at movienewswithnicholson@gmail.com. That'll do it for us here. Thank you guys so much. Again, don't forget to click subscribe and join us again on Friday, where I will be I'm hoping to review Brick Mansions, which is the new Paul Walker movie. As long as there's a showtime early enough to get it in on the Friday episode, I will be reviewing that, as well as taking your user-submitted questions. So don't forget to put something in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for watching, and you take care.